Welcome back to more UCL Fantasy content. This will be my team selection for Matchday 7. If you want to see the best wildcard and limitless squads, check out those respective videos because in this situation, I've got 2 free transfers like many of you watching and I don't have any chip to fall back on. And you can join my UCL Fantasy League and keep it growing. The code is SEINOF. There's an auto-join link in the description. The same goes for my Twitter, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, my Discord server, and much more like my Spotify can also be found in the description for more updates. And also subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and like this video. Let's get it to over 200 overall and closing on new goals like 38k subscribers on YouTube. Let's grow all these platforms together, and all your support has been extraordinary over the last 6 years. I'll keep on making UCL Fantasy and FPL videos for the months to come, and hopefully you join me on this journey as we look to build our UCL Fantasy teams and keep optimizing it to the best way possible, because every situation is different. We want to chase differentials and go for our own path to really enjoy the game to its fullest extent. And during the league phase, that's where things get very interesting and you have so many different opportunities and differentials headed your way. There are many injuries and suspensions to also look out for. I'll be highlighting some of them in this video, and by watching all of my content for Matchday 7, you'll be well prepared for the upcoming deadline and beyond. It has been a while since Matchday 6, which took place in early December, but it's worth refreshing our memories a little bit because it provides extra context of my squad, some of the issues that have persisted over the last couple of months. And David Raya kept the clean sheet in a 3-0 win over Club Brugge, but that wasn't really replicated with the outfield players. Batcher was one of them who also delivered a clean sheet there and 7 points overall. He is very solid when it comes to ball recoveries, but not to the same level as last season. Both Ben Sabani and Dan Burn blanked, and my defensive line has been quite awful for the last couple of match days, and injuries to Denzel Dumfries and Gabriel certainly hasn't helped, and selling Van de Ven to Gusto has been a terrible mistake on my part. And when it comes to the midfield, Lamine Yamal is now suspended. He got an assist, but he was still quite underwhelming since signing him, and the fact he's going to be unavailable for Matchday 7 makes it a priority to sell him. Otherwise, Bukayo Saka would have been on the chopping block. I don't think he'll start against Kara Almaty, but a start against Inter Milan is possible. I just don't think that fixture bodes that well for the Arsenal attackers, and the Gunners lost 1-0 last season at the same stadium. Fermin Lopez also just got 1 point. He didn't start that game, and his goal was disallowed in La Liga against Real Sociedad. It's worth mentioning that, and that was quite contentious in of itself. Bukayo Saka didn't start as Madueke's replacement got 17 points, scoring a brace against Club Brugge, so owning Saka has also been a major disappointment in UCL Fantasy and FPL, which I'll talk about in the coming days. But Yildiz was the standout in this position. He got the Player of the Match award, and he has returned quite well over the last 2 match days. When it comes to the free forwards, though, it was very underwhelming. Erling Haaland scored 1 goal, but no Player of the Match award, no assists, just a standard 6-pointer, whilst Garassi, who I captained on the Wednesday, ended up being a substitute. And as soon as I saw that, I knew the match day was absolute curtains. Harry Kane also blanked for the 3rd consecutive game, and selling Elise instead of Kane has ended up biting me in the end, but I don't regret the decision. The outcome, though, has definitely gone against me there. With the bench as well, not really any standout performers. Gabriel, of course, was injured, but now he's available for Matchday 7, so keeping him might bode quite well for the last 2 match days. But just like Saka, I think rotation against Kara Almaty is almost inevitable. So I took a -4 hit, and in the end, I got 41 points, so it has been very underwhelming to say the least, and that's a red arrow to 41k, which is still a decent rank, but it is considerably worse than anywhere I finished in my UCL Fantasy career, if you will. And now I've got 2 free transfers to sort of fix things a little bit with 0.5 million in the bank, so things aren't looking great, but it could be worse, that's for sure. When it comes to transfer plans, this is not set in stone because I've got Dan Burn who is injured, and I could sell him to Jules Koundé and get 15 playing players on paper, but it depends on several factors like injuries and rotation, and we're going to get even more updates on the Monday and going into the Tuesday as well. Another transfer I'm looking at is Yamal to Rafinha, but that has also become less likely with the omission of Rafinha from the squad on Sunday against Real Sociedad. There are reports, which are unconfirmed, that indicate he could be available in Matchday 7, but I wouldn't really count on it. And there are other options at a similar price point like Cole Palmer. I know Musiala made his return in the Bundesliga and got an assist from the bench in his first game since the Club World Cup, but I wouldn't be considering it right now. I think the minutes will be all over the place, and even with Palmer, he's had injury problems all season with his groin. So I think it's quite difficult to replace Yamal with that sheer consistency. He is scoring and assisting in virtually every single game so far this season. So that's why my attentions might actually divert elsewhere, and selling Yamal to Vitinha gives me even more money in the bank, and I can make a big upgrade in the forward line. But Vitinha is on penalties, he can get ball recoveries, and he's got 4 goals so far this season, and that's mainly helped by the hat-trick against Tottenham Hotspur. He can get a few assists as well, and I think he is the complete package in the midfield, and he's very, very good at that price point for sure. Guirassy to Mbappe would be a great transfer, and ultimately I made the opposite switch a couple of weeks ago because Mbappe was a doubt to face Man City, which I covered at the time, and he was on the bench for that particular game. But I would back him to start against Monaco. He has a great record against them, and he would be a leading captaincy contender, which I talked about in the best limitless squad as well. And Guirassy should start this time out, but against Tottenham away, the ceiling will be lower. Then it's Inter Milan in Matchday 8. So Mbappe is certainly the preference for the remaining 2 match days, and I think he could score another brace or hat-trick in either Matchday 7 or 8 in general. So with all of that in mind, this is my provisional team selection with the most likely transfers at this moment in time, and between the sticks, I would start David Raya against Inter Milan, and Carnesecchi is the backup. They're the 2 high-scoring goalkeepers in the game, and the defensive line looks a little bit better now, but still not perfect, with Baccio facing Sporting away, Ben Sebaini away to Tottenham, and Gabriel Magalhaes facing Inter Milan away. Those fixtures aren't great, and they're all away from home, but I still think 1 clean sheet is possible from these players. I've got a few other options in my defensive line, but if I don't sell Dan Burn, I will be quite limited in this position once more. When it comes to the 4 midfielders, Vitinha would be one of the standout players in general, and Yilmaz isn't great, but at 5 million he offers decent value, facing Atletico Madrid up next. My ideal budget midfielder is Nemecha, but he is facing Tottenham and Inter Milan anyway, so those aren't particularly appealing fixtures, although Spurs have struggled in the Premier League this season quite a lot. They are in a decent position in the Champions League in the 11th spot, and Fermi Lopez has been a very consistent performer for Barcelona this season, and facing Slavia Prague away is definitely worth covering their attack in one way, shape or form, but it's just a shame I don't have Yamal as well to complement that and double up on their team with even a triple up on the cards if I make that defender transfer in Jules Koundé. And Bukayo Saka will likely start against Inter Milan, but it's not a guarantee because a few days later Arsenal will be facing Manchester United, who got a 2-0 win against Man City, and Inter Milan got a very impressive and important 1-0 victory over the weekend, and they're top of Serie A. They lead by 6 points, just like Arsenal at the top of the Premier League table. They actually extended their lead to 7 points despite a goalless draw against Nottingham Forest. Harry Kane, Mbappe and Haaland is the best front line you can assemble. They're very expensive, but they offer sheer consistency despite a few frustrations here and there, particularly from Harry Kane, but they are still going to be right up there for the Golden Boot race for this competition and also in their respective leagues to win the European Golden Boot. And currently Kane is tied with Haaland for that particular individual award, whilst Mbappe is leading when it comes to the Champions League. Now on my bench, I've got Carnesecchi, who is second only behind Raya for UCL Fantasy points amongst goalkeepers. I've also got some decent options like Yildiz facing Benfica at home, and the other option is Gusto facing Paphos, but he has been a terrible signing. The good thing about this though is that he didn't start in the Premier League against Brentford, so the hope here is that he finally starts in the Champions League against Paphos, and I've got a decent defender on paper because Chelsea would be right up there for the clean sheet odds, and Dan Burn will be my last player. I'm down to 14 options if I go for the Mbappe and Vitinha route, but I will show you some alternative transfer plans towards the end where I can still buy Vitinha but maybe focus my efforts elsewhere and keep Guirassy against Tottenham away. But if I do buy Mbappe, he'll be my captain on the Tuesday, and if needed, I'll switch to Harry Kane on the Wednesday and keep it very simple, that's for sure. If we get updates over the next day or so that indicate that Rafinha will be available, I'd be very tempted to buy him instead of Vitinha, but I think that's more of a Matchday 7 thing. And if you also factor in Matchday 8 and potential rotation, Vitinha is the safer option. And in the long term for sure, going into the knockouts, I think Vitinha would be one of the first names on the team sheet if he continues this fine vein of form. He got an assist against Lille in a 3-0 victory, and Dembele scored a brace. He's yet another forward I would consider as well. And Robert Lewandowski could be a great Matchday 7 punt, as highlighted in my best wildcard and limitless videos. In this section, I'll be highlighting the high-scoring players in each position. Both Raya and Carnesecchi are in my team. That's very well done, Dylan. At least I got something right on the Matchday 2 wildcard. And I think the immediate results were very strong when it comes to that chip, but you feel the effects later going into December and January with all the injuries and suspensions, which is something I also highlighted and counter-argued in my chip strategy video. Vicario, Chakir, and Courtois complete the top 5 highest scoring goalkeepers so far this season. And let's now move on to the defenders, where Nuno Mendes is top with 48 points, Grimaldo is second, and Van de Ven is suspended for matchday 7. He is third with 43 points. Van Dijk and Lucassen from Paphos complete the top 5, so some surprising names on that list. And for midfielders, Vitinha, who's one of my main targets in this position, has 53 points. Anthony Gordon has 50, with Martinelli, Szoboszlai and Igor Paxal in the top 5. So some decent mid-priced options in there for sure. And with the forwards, Mbappe, Aubameyang, Osimhen, Kane and Erling Haaland. So there are some decent value picks in this position. Burkhardt from Frankfurt is yet another one, but I think Mbappe, Kane and Haaland are as reliable as they come. And if their teams go far in this competition, I would expect them to be the 3 highest scoring forwards in the game by some distance. And I think you can find better value in the midfield, that's for sure, based on the projections and patterns we've seen so far this season. But let's just highlight a few things here. With the fixtures, we have yet another early kickoff because Kara Almaty play at home in Kazakhstan once again. And that's why for matchday 7, just like we saw in early December, we have an early deadline, 4:30 p.m. in Central Europe, and in the UK that'd be 3:30 p.m. So don't be caught out by that early deadline, and make sure to lock in your teams and get everything sorted out with the captaincy, your goalkeepers and substitutions. But of course, I'll be there every step of the way, giving you all the best advice and top recommendations for your UCL fantasy teams. Many of the picks I highlighted in my best wildcard and limitless videos are also applicable here. So instead of Vitinha, I could focus on Cole Palmer, maybe even go for another Bayern Munich midfielder like Michael Olise. That would also be on the cards here, and I could double up on Bayern Munich offensively against Union Saint-Gilloise and PSV. I would have 1.7 million in the bank by also buying Koundé in that defensive line. Barcelona are not reliable defensively, and before that Real Sociedad game, they had won 11 consecutive games across all competitions since their defeat against Chelsea in the Champions League. So that could be the way to bolster my 50-man squad. It means no Mbappe, but I could captain Erling Haaland instead in this scenario and then switch to Harry Kane if needed. So it gives me a bit more depth in terms of numbers. If I could wildcard right now, the immediate sort of standouts to replace would be Yamal, Yilmaz, Gusto and Ben Sebaini. I think the rest is still pretty decent, but I look at Bukayo Saka, for example, and I could find better value in the midfield. He is a consistent performer for Arsenal, but in terms of goal scoring, we haven't seen enough from him, and all the Arsenal attackers in general. They share the goals around, but you don't really get that prolific goal scorer in the Arsenal ranks. The same occurred last season as well, but at least Saka was getting more assists, especially when it came to the Champions League. He got some massive returns in the league phase, but that hasn't been the case so far this season. So I think Olise or Vitinha would be the most likely midfielders to replace Lamine Yamal in my setup, and I'll keep an eye out for Rafinha, but I wouldn't count on it just yet. And when it comes to defenders, I think Jules Koundé will be the top replacement for Dan Burn, considering matchday 7 and 8, where Barcelona face Slavia Prague away and Copenhagen at home. And up front, Guirassy to Mbappe is the only transfer I'd really consider. Both Kane and Haaland will be kept for now, but Lewandowski and Dembele are certainly very appealing, and they definitely warrant attention for matchday 7. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, both UCL Fantasy and FPL. Let's get this video in particular to over 200 likes and closing on new goals like 38k subscribers on YouTube. Follow me on X, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the Championships, fair access to my videos, proud to comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the UCL Fantasy League and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you very soon for even more UCL Fantasy and FPL content, and keep your eyes peeled for more deadline streams and team selections.